Namaste. My daughter is 12 years old. And I'm sure some of you may have daughters that age or know of someone having a daughter of 11 years old. Sorry, did I say 12? Start again. Okay, my daughter is 11 years old, and I'm sure some of you may have had daughters 11 years old or know of someone having daughters of 11-year-old. Now picture this, just imagine you getting invited to the marriage of that 11-year-old girl. Can you imagine me getting my daughter married at the age of 11? Yes, no, yes in the sense not that yes, but it happened just 2 generations ago, And that 11-year-old girl happened to be my grandmother. My grandparents lived in a nondescript village with very poor transport connectivity, no electricity, and no drinking water either. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and his entrepreneurial venture was a sprawling one room of 15 feet roughly and width of 7 feet. It was a tailoring shop, and he was a tailor. And my grandmother spearheaded the women's department of that venture. Does anyone know what this is? This is a stethoscope. This is the stethoscope of a tailor. Yes, this is the measuring tape. And this is the measuring tape that was used by my grandmother. Thousands of clothes measured and stitched. And I still feel that she's here with me, right here, right now, in the form of this tape. Life for women folk at that time was tough. And in fact, tough is a massive understatement. Along with all the things that were not there that I just mentioned before, there was one more thing that was not available, and that was cooking gas. So now you might be wondering how the food was cooked. Well, so there was something called as a tsul. So now you might be wondering what tsul is. So tsul is a horseshoe-shaped construct, roughly around 2 feet in height, and made using bricks and clay. And the dried wood and dried cow dung was inserted from the open end of the horseshoe and was lit on the fire, and all the food was cooked on that fire. Of course, it used to emanate massive amount of heat and smoke, and the women folk who was cooking on that tsul used to inadvertently consume that heat and smoke. In addition to that, there were no flour mills as well, so my grandmother had to hand ground the bajra and jawari so that she could make the rotis and chapatis for her 5 children, feed them, dress them, send them to the school, clean the house, bring the fresh water from the nearby drinking village, cook the food, wash the utensils, clean the clothes, and if in case she manages to get some fresh air or get some breath for herself, she used to go and stitch the clothes. And all of this used to happen throughout the day until the sun used to set. Just saying that is tiring. Imagine doing all of that. And lo behold, the next day the sun used to rise, and this super duper woman used to do the entire thing all over again, every day, every week, every year. No sick leave, no weekend, no public holidays. This was a constant yajna to keep the family alive. And not only alive, but she wanted her kids to have a very good education. She was a dreamer. And in fact, if you see, she was eligible to be the head teacher of the only school in the entire village. But her mother-in-law made her run those daily marathons, and her dreams got squashed because of the societal pressures. Recently, she passed away in my arms, and just before that, I could see her. She was so weak to speak, but all the talking was being done by her eyes. And I could see deep into her eyes 7 decades of hard toil in her life. I could see in her eyes thousands of clothes stitched, tons of love showered on her grandchildren. Those eyes with those unfulfilled dreams finally came to the rest forever. So those dreams that she had, unfortunately, had unfulfilled, and the same thing happened with her daughter as well, which is my mother. And I hope that I will be able to fulfill the dreams of my grandmother. Fast forward one, Vaani, cohort 45, a young girl, my granddaughter, giving her speech on her grandfather, hopefully remembering and reminiscing about me and saying, my grandfather didn't have any hair and neither a Ferrari, but what he had was an indomitable courage and spirit to change the world. Fast forward to 20 years down the line, that girl remembering and saying, hopefully I fulfilled the dream of my grandfather, not only my grandfather, but also my great-great-grandmother, of making a difference, changing the world by sitting here in 10 Downing Street. Namaste.